His touch didn't land on my skin, but it kissed every part of me that longed to be known. Before starting the story, please subscribe to my channel and like the video for more stories like these. I never imagined that one day my life would be so deeply intertwined with someone I didn't raise, didn't expect, and yet couldn't stop thinking about. My name is Eliza, and this is the story of how my world shifted in ways I never anticipated. Because of him, my stepson, Aiden. It started the day I married his father, Richard. He was a kind, dependable man with a quiet strength that made me feel secure after years of loneliness. Richard had a son from his first marriage. Aiden, 19 years old, confident, handsome, and quiet in a way that made you wonder what thoughts hid behind those dark eyes. Our first meeting had been brief. Richard had warned me that Aiden might need time to adjust, and I understood. Aiden stayed mostly silent during dinner that night, his eyes avoiding mine. I couldn't help but notice the tension in his shoulders, the subtle way his jaw tightened every time our eyes met. I told myself it was just discomfort with change. But things didn't remain distant for long. Richard traveled often for work. Slowly, he began to soften. I'd find him lingering a little longer during breakfast, asking about my day, offering to help with groceries. I didn't know when the atmosphere began to shift. Maybe it was the time I caught him looking at me a little too long as I folded laundry in the living room. Or the way he'd pause at the doorway, as though wanting to say something but holding back. I didn't press it. I wasn't supposed to notice. But I did. Then came the night everything changed. It was late. Rain lashed against the windows, and the power flickered. Richard was away on a business trip, and I was curled up on the couch with a blanket, flipping through old photo albums. The house was cold and the silence too loud. Aiden appeared without warning. He stood by the living room door, watching me with an unreadable expression. He didn't say anything at first, just walked over and sat beside me. The couch dipped slightly beneath his weight. "You look cold," he said, his voice quiet. "A little," I admitted, clutching the blanket tighter. He reached for the edge of the blanket and pulled it over his lap too. We sat there side by side in the silence. I could feel the warmth of his arm near mine, the subtle brush of our legs touching beneath the blanket. "I remember when my dad married you," he said suddenly. I didn't know what to expect. I turned to him. "And now?" He didn't answer right away. His gaze dropped to our joined hands. I hadn't even realized I was resting my hand beside his until his fingers grazed mine, just barely. "I think I expected distance," he said finally. "But you're not what I thought you'd be." There was something about his voice, the softness, the hesitation. It wasn't the words but the way he said them that sent a ripple through me. He turned to look at me and our eyes met. There was no awkwardness in that moment, no guilt. Just quiet understanding. Something unspoken passed between us, thick and heavy in the space between our bodies. It was Aiden who looked away first, running a hand through his hair, as though breaking free from a thought he didn't want to finish. "I should go," he murmured, standing quickly. But he didn't move right away. He lingered, as though waiting for a reason to stay. I said nothing. I couldn't. My heart thudded too loudly in my chest. That night I barely slept. Over the next few days, the atmosphere in the house changed. We didn't speak of that moment again, but it lived beneath every glance, every accidental touch, every too long silence. Aiden became quieter, more careful, and yet I caught him watching me when he thought I wasn't looking. One afternoon I was in the kitchen, humming softly as I prepared tea. Aiden entered silently, leaned against the counter and watched me. I smiled, pretending not to notice how his eyes followed my every movement. "You always seem calm," he said. "I try to be," I replied, handing him a cup. "It helps when someone else in the house is so intense." He chuckled. "Intense?" I met his eyes. "You have a way of looking at people. Like you're trying to see what they're hiding." He raised an eyebrow. "And what are you hiding?" "Maybe I'm not hiding anything," I teased. "Everyone hides something," he said softly. Our hands brushed again as he took the cup, And he didn't pull away. Neither did I. Felt dangerous, but also honest. Like we were standing on the edge of something neither of us fully understood, afraid to fall but too intrigued to walk away. A week later, I found myself sitting beside him on the patio, watching the sunset. The sky was streaked in orange and violet, the air warm. He turned to me, eyes searching. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Of course. Do you ever feel like you're living someone else's life? Like you're just performing the role expected of you?" I hesitated. "Sometimes. But maybe that's what adulthood is. Pretending until you forget you're pretending." He nodded slowly. "That's how I feel, especially here." I didn't know what to say. I just reached over and touched his hand lightly as a comfort. His fingers curled around mine. "I don't want to pretend anymore," he whispered. The words lingered between us like smoke. What happened next wasn't dramatic. There were no grand confessions, no declarations. Just quiet evenings, lingering conversations, hands touching longer than necessary, eyes that said too much. And one night he kissed me. It was gentle, hesitant, like he was asking a question he wasn't sure I'd answer. My breath caught. I should have stopped it. I knew all the reasons why. But I didn't. I let it happen. Because in that moment, it felt like the most honest thing in the world. We never talked about love. We didn't have to. It was in the way he touched my hand in the hallway, the way I lingered by his bedroom door just to hear his voice. It was in the small things. His coat left on the back of my chair, my perfume on his pillow. But secrets weigh heavy. Richard returned from his business trips, smiling, oblivious. Aiden and I became ghosts in our own home, hiding, whispering, pretending again. The guilt ate at me, but the connection refused to fade. One night, Aiden found me sitting in the kitchen, tears on my cheeks. "This can't continue," I whispered. "I know," he said, his voice low and pained. But neither of us moved. "I don't want to hurt anyone," I said. He touched my hand. "Neither do I. But what we have, it's real." And that was the problem. It was real. Too real to ignore, too complicated to continue. We decided to create distance. He planned to move out for college sooner than expected. We needed space, to breathe, to think, to let the weight of what we were fall into something more manageable. The day he left, he didn't say goodbye in front of Richard. He simply nodded, smiled, and walked out the door. That night, I found a note tucked beneath my pillow. "I don't regret a moment, but I know we need time. If this was ever meant to be, it will find its way again. Until then, I'll carry you with me, in silence, in memory, in every quiet heartbeat." And I cried. For everything we had, for everything we couldn't keep, for everything unspoken that would live between the lines of our lives forever.